Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse on your favorite streaming platforms. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. And now, you can find the Red Treehouse on Patreon. Join the Red Treehouse community for as little as $3 per month and receive exclusive member benefits. Simply go to patreon.com/Red Treehouse. Important note: sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. If you didn't know what you were watching, you might think the video was unusual, if not slightly uninteresting. It shows a man in a yellow t-shirt, black shorts, and tennis shoes walking, then sprinting through an airport before heading outside, scaling a fence, and going into a wooded area. On the surface, the video is intriguing and raises the most basic questions. Who is the man? Why is he running? And where did he go? Now what if I told you we only have the answer to the first question? His name is Lars Mittank, and he has been missing for the last 11 years. And the video of him running through an airport, scaling a fence, and walking into the woods, it's the last time anyone saw him alive. The days leading to his disappearance have left far more questions than answers, with some speculating he may still be alive somewhere, and others believing the worst. In this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're going to explore the harrowing and scary disappearance of Lars Mittank. What happened to him on July 8, 2014, and what theories exist to try and explain his strange disappearance. I'll share the story. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. Lars Mittank was born on February 9, 1986 in Berlin, Germany. In 2014, at age 28, he was by all accounts well-liked and had a zest for life. He had a long-term girlfriend, a strong relationship with his parents, a successful career at a local power plant, and several close friends with whom he went on a week-long vacation to Varna, Bulgaria. On June 30, 2014, he traveled with 5 friends to the Golden Sands, a seaside resort just outside the city of Varna. They booked the Viva Club Hotel, which was part of the larger resort, and settled in for a week of fun and relaxation. The group enjoyed time at the beach, swimming in the pool, watching football, or what we know as soccer, partying at local nightclubs, and more. According to one article, which included an interview with Paul Roman, one of Lars Mittank's friends, quote, "The week went by really fast. He was relaxed. He was in a good mood." End quote. It was also the week of the World Cup semifinals. Mittank was a fan of Werder Bremen, a football team competing in the first tier of the German Football League. On July 5th, the day before the group was set to return home, they got into an argument with another group of men over their respective football teams. The other group were fans of Bayern Munich, who also competed in the first tier of the German Football League. A quick note. While researching, I heard the two groups were arguing over the World Cup semifinal matchups between Argentina and the Netherlands. And while it may be possible the groups were discussing, debating, and then disagreeing about the match, it's important to note that particular match did not occur until July 9, 2014, the day after Lars Mittank disappeared. At some point, the conversation between the groups turned hostile, with one article stating, quote, "Mittank got into an altercation with other German tourists over football," end quote. The details surrounding the altercation are unclear, but later that night, the group decided to grab a quick bite to eat at a local restaurant, except Mittank told them he wasn't hungry and would head back to the hotel alone. They parted ways, but a few hours later, when the group returned to the hotel, Lars wasn't there, and they didn't see him until early the next morning. He told them he'd been beaten up while walking back to the hotel the night before. According to one article, quote, "He said that the German tourists he had an earlier altercation with had paid people to beat him up. He complained to his friends that his ear was sore, and he was struggling to hear," end quote. Mittank went to see a doctor, who diagnosed him with a ruptured eardrum and prescribed him cefprozil, an antibiotic used to treat ear infections. The doctor also told Mittank to avoid flying, as the change in air pressure could cause more damage to his ear. Rather than risk it, he made a critical decision: to stay in Bulgaria a few more days to recover. The decision made perfect sense. Why risk doing more harm by flying now, when you could wait a day or two and lower the risk? When he informed his friends of his decision, one of them offered to stay behind with him, but Mittank reassured them he would be fine and encouraged his friends to head back to Germany. Now checked out of the Golden Sands, Mittank had some difficulty finding a hotel in the area around Varna, and he was forced to stay at a cheap hotel in an unfamiliar and more seedy area. In fact, after checking in, he called his mother and asked her to put a hold on his credit card because he feared it was copied at the front desk. Lars spoke with his mother several times throughout the night, sometimes by phone and other times through text, and she noted, quote, "He appeared to be extremely worried and paranoid, and during one call, he told her that he was being followed by 4 men," end quote. Something interesting. One article reported, quote, "Mittank also asked his mother about a specific ingredient which was in the antibiotics which he had been prescribed," end quote. Despite my best efforts, I could not find out the reasoning behind his question, and it leaves us wondering if he was concerned about a possible adverse reaction, or if he was concerned the antibiotics had been tampered with. It seems obvious that he was scared for his safety and well-being, and security footage from the hotel confirms this. It shows Lars Mittank pacing the lobby, constantly looking out of windows, hiding in elevators, and walking around as if trying to evade someone. Except, no one else was seen on the footage. Despite his initial plan to stay for a few days in Bulgaria, Lars Mittank grew increasingly concerned for his safety, and he decided to fly back to Germany the next day. His mother Sandra purchased a plane ticket for the afternoon of July 8th and a bus ticket in case he was not comfortable flying. She also deposited €500 in case he needed money while traveling. Deciding it was time to leave, Mittank took a cab to the Varna airport, and surveillance footage shows him entering. He was wearing a backpack and carrying a travel bag. Once inside, he went to the office of Dr. Kostov to find out if he was able to fly, and to express concern about the antibiotics he had been prescribed a few days before. Dr. Kostov examined Mittank and cleared him to fly. Yet, despite the good news, he was agitated and seemingly nervous. And when a construction worker entered the office shortly after, Mittank stated, quote, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." End quote. Then, leaving his backpack, travel bag, and cell phone, Mittank ran from the doctor's office and out of the front entrance of the airport before jumping a 6-foot-high fence and disappearing into a wooded area located beside a highway. The surveillance footage shows this to be the last time anyone heard from Lars Mittank. The disappearance of Lars Mittank holds a question within a question. We know what happened to him. He ran out of the airport and disappeared after entering the wooded area. But the question within remains the same. What happened to Lars Mittank after that? And it's the second question that has left his family, friends, authorities, and the world stumped. Of course, various theories have emerged over the years. One theory proposes that Lars suffered a concussion or other traumatic brain injury during the altercation with the men who jumped him. According to the Mayo Clinic, a concussion is, quote, "a mild traumatic brain injury that affects brain function. Concussions usually are caused by an impact to the head or body." End quote. Symptoms of concussion include headache, ringing in the ears, nausea and/or vomiting, fatigue, blurry vision, confusion or feeling as if in a fog, amnesia surrounding the event, dizziness or seeing stars, temporary loss of consciousness, slurred speech, delayed response to questions, dazed appearance, and forgetfulness. In the days following a concussion, a person may also experience trouble with concentration or memory, irritability or other personality changes, sensitivity to light and noise, trouble with sleep, feeling emotional or depressed, and changes in taste or smell. At the risk of over-speculation, it appears Mittank may have experienced several of these symptoms. Though what's interesting is that he saw 2 doctors just after the altercation when he was diagnosed with a ruptured eardrum, and after entering the airport when he was cleared to fly. In neither instance was he diagnosed with a concussion or traumatic brain injury. Though it's important to note, the first doctor encouraged Lars Mittank to go to the hospital for a more thorough examination. Advice he did not take. There's something else. It has been suggested that Mittank was suffering from possible hallucinations due to a concussion or traumatic brain injury, and a percentage of individuals do in fact experience hallucinations, most commonly in the early stages of recovery. Another theory suggests Lars Mittank may have experienced an adverse reaction to the antibiotic he was prescribed, though there are 2 interesting pieces of information associated with this. First, Mittank's friends have claimed that he was not taking the antibiotic, as he was concerned about the ingredients, a concern he shared with his mother the night before his disappearance. Second, Cefprozil, like other medication, has a list of adverse side effects, except hallucinations are not listed among them. Of course, this may not mean much, because if Lars Mittank took the antibiotics, it's possible he experienced rare side effects. A third theory suggests Lars Mittank may have suffered from latent mental health issues, despite having no personal or family history of this. In tandem, it's also been suggested that he may have had a psychotic break due to substance use, despite having no history of taking substances. And Lars Mittank's friends adamantly denied that he was using substances while on vacation. Whenever we consider mental health or substance use struggles, it's always important to avoid imposing these diagnoses on anyone. Both are deeply personal, and misdiagnosing or falsely diagnosing someone only serve to make matters significantly more difficult. For this reason, we won't speculate on the possible mental health struggles he may have suffered from. But it is important to note that this has been raised as a potential reason for Mittank's erratic behavior. Finally, the last theory involves taking Lars Mittank at his word, that he was being stalked by criminals committed to hurting him. In some ways, it's the easiest theory, because it centers Mittank's concerns and explains his reactions and responses. Theories within the theory have emerged, including the possibility that Mittank saw or heard something he shouldn't have, and that he was targeted for being a witness to a crime. Except, the surveillance footage doesn't necessarily support this, because Mittank is the only one who shows up on camera. We never see who he's looking out for, evading, or running from. The only thing we see is Lars Mittank's fear. The woods surrounding the Varna airport are dense and include cave systems, wildlife, and extend to the coast. Authorities searched the area for days with dogs, people, and drones. They found nothing. No clothing, no footprints or trails, no body, nothing. For her part, Sandra Mittank continues to hold out hope that her son is alive. She's hired a private investigator, created an online Facebook forum, has done countless interviews in both Germany and Bulgaria, and printed off thousands of missing persons flyers. And yet, she is no closer to finding her son. It's been over 11 years since Lars Mittank was last seen or heard from, and despite the empty leads and unconfirmed sightings, she is convinced she will see him again, stating, quote, "There's a good chance he'll come back. He just needs my help." End quote. The story of Lars Mittank is both tragic and scary. That a young man could simply vanish without a trace is, to me, far scarier than the ugliest monster hiding under the bed. When it comes to the different theories, I lean towards concussion or traumatic brain injury. It seems that whatever injury he sustained in the altercation had a significant impact on his functioning afterwards. At minimum, we know he was hit hard enough to rupture his eardrum, and it's possible that he was more injured than was initially suspected. And that's the tragic and scary part, the near infinite number of unanswered questions that come up. Because when something like this happens, all that's left is speculation. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with this lingering question. What happened to Lars Mittank on July 8th, 2014? I've shared the story. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.